Hello YouTube, welcome back. This is episode 15, I think, playing Nori. He is a pretty cool tactician. I like playing him on one lane mostly, but he does work well on 3 lane as well. He is a pretty solid guardian, I think. He works well with teams which teams where everybody has a mic. You kind of know each other. He's not the greatest guardian when you're playing in a group of randoms, because he does take some, talking things out and planning. He's a good tactician. I'd probably rate his difficulty a little bit higher if I were scoring him. He's not an easy guardian to play. He does an amazing amount of damage with his ultimate, and he has really good buffs. He gives everybody around him 70% resistance, which is huge. And then he also has his other ability that gives people a little bit extra damage, which is also very useful. So if I can start off, one thing you really got to be aware of when you're playing Nori is his passive, because it gives him a huge buff. And his passive is called Master Mason, and that's important for his other abilities. What Master Mason does is, feeling the strength of stone around him, Nori gains enchantments to his abilities, and when he is near a structure, which they don't say, but it has to be a structure that's still alive. So if you kill a tower, that tower is no longer a valid structure. So when he's near a structure, additionally, his basic attack adds 13 true damage, increasing by 3 for each level during a match. So he can be very effective, do a lot of damage, but it's really going to only be triggered when he's near a structure. Now, the other way you can get that passive active is when you use his Fortitude ability. Now, this is the first ability that I like to level up, and what it does is it creates a big aura. I'll just read the ability for you. To gain advantage of the field of battle, Nori creates an area of effect that persists for 10 seconds, inflicting 5 up to 11 damage per second to enemies within medium range, and slowing them by reducing their movement speed by 15%. Additionally, Nori activates his Master Mason passive ability while within range of the effect, so you don't always have to be near a structure, which would be a shrine or a tower. If you put your Fortitude down and you're within that circle area, you will trigger your passive. And so that's going to be important for tactical reasons, and I'll go into that. Additionally, when Nori activates his Master Mason passive ability while within range of the effect, thereby increasing the ability damage dealt to nearby enemies from 15 up into 30. So it more than doubles the damage and slows them by 30%, which is double the slowing effect. And so this is a very useful thing to remember. It's very difficult to use offensively to get that extra double damage when your Massive Mason's active, but if you're playing defensively and you're near your own tower when your passive is active, that's when you'll get that bonus that'll double the damage. So when you put your Fortitude down, you gain your passive while being inside it, but you can do more than double the damage if you have your passive already active when you put the ability down. So keep that in mind. So you can see here I don't want to get too close to the tower. It's a very bad position for me to be. So I'm not going to try to get that extra double damage. If I'm playing defensively and I'm by my own tower and I put that down near my tower, it's going to do double the damage to any creep waves or any enemy guardians that are trying to do damage to my tower. So it's very easy to use defensively, a little more difficult to use offensively. And when you're in an area that's like neutral, like a shrine, it's always pretty easy to throw it down there as well. So I'll go on to his other good abilities. It's really kind of hard for me to decide, but if you're playing a game where you're really pushing, I would go with Dwarven Onslaught. And what that does is it increases basic damage from 14, scaling up to 16 damage for 6 seconds. And if the Master Mason ability is active, the basic damage is enhanced and increased to 7 up into 31. And this is a really good ability. when your creeps are marching up on the enemy tower or other guardians are with you and you're about to do damage to enemy towers and enemies later in team fights, you really do a lot more damage, kind of like how Gothmog boosts the damage against towers with his passive ability. Now the other one, if you find that you're taking a lot more damage, you have to play a little more defensively, I would go with Man the Walls. So it's really kind of just preference, just kind of feel out how your game's going. With Man the Walls, Nori gives allied structures and units within close range 70% resistance to ability and basic damage, and that's from 1 second up into 1.6 seconds. Now that seems pretty short, and it is, but if your Master Mazen ability is active, it goes from 2 seconds up into 3.2, so it's a lot longer when you have your passive active. And that's what you really got to keep in mind when you play Nori, is try to save your abilities when you can for when your passive is active, your Master Mazen. But if it's not and you really need to use it in a team situation, then just go ahead and use those abilities. Now Nori's ultimate does an awesome amount of damage. It's Swift Blow. What it does is Nori uses Stone and Earth to deliver a devastating blow, instantly moving across the field of battle by teleporting to a location within medium range. Upon arrival, Nori knocks enemies within medium range into the air, briefly immobilizing them, and deals 70 up into 220 ability damage to them as well. If Master Mazen is active, the ability damage increases from 130 damage up into 400, which is big. And the enemy structures lose 10%, going all the way up to 25% of their total health. Now if you think about that on the very last tower, that's like about over 2,000 damage, which is really huge. And if you can keep sneaking that ability off from like a bush or something on enemies' towers that are very hard to get to, you can find that you can really annoy the enemy and just kind of kill that tower without having to do too much hard pushing. And so this does deal a lot of damage additionally if you have ability power. So running some kind of ability power is always a really good idea with Nori. Now the loadouts I like to go with would be, for this game I go with High Pass and Western Ease. This is going to give me 24% cooldown reduction, which 25 is the max, so I'm okay with that. More importantly, compared to the Blue Relic, the Blue Relic gives you 2 more blue gems, but you really got to use a lot of abilities to kind of feed it all the way up to 25%, because with each ability you use, you gain 1%, and it maxes out at 25. This way, I just get the cooldown reduction right off the bat. So I just kind of decided to go with that. And then I went with Western Ease to give myself good ability power and a little bit balance of penetration, which will be very useful for my ultimate, which is really how I do a lot of my damage being Ori. Now, with this loadout, when I'm fully leveled, it'll give me the 24 ability cooldown reduction, like I said, and then it also gives me a pretty decent amount of ability power at 320. So this is, like I said, going to do a lot more damage added on to my ultimate, which is really why I have the ability power. If I was playing the game a little bit differently, you could also go with some more health, or you could even max out with even more ability power. So it's really kind of just up to you. Being Nori is kind of a hard guardian to play. Just go with whatever loadout you find is effective for you. Now he is a tactician, so he's not going to take too much damage, so you got to play him very carefully. And what I want to warn you about also is when using his ultimate, it has a wind-up, and it's very easy for enemies to cancel this wind-up. Wind-up meaning it doesn't cast instantly. He pounds on the ground a couple times, and there's an opportunity for that ability to be canceled. So you got to be really careful. It's a really strong ability, so try to really make it count when you can. And you can see here, see what type of damage it does. Really try to focus on getting your Master Mazen ability active. I wouldn't try to do it, trying to trigger it by being close to a structure. I would try to throw down your Fortitude, and then that big ring right there, just try to be within it. Place it kind of strategically near a structure, and then once you're in it and your passive is active, then try to go ahead and use your ult. But really try to use it sparingly. If you don't see an opportunity that's right, don't force it. The cooldown time for your fortitude is a lot shorter than your ultimate. Just keep that in mind. Now, when I'm also near enemy structures, I do try to do when I can is also hit enemies at the same time if I have a chance to not take so much damage. And the reason for that is just because the true damage does a lot. And you can see right there, I was really lucky to get away alive. And like I said, Nori is not a tank. You can sure build him up like a tank by giving him a lot of health, but I'd really go for the ability power. So, I get caught up on the last tower. That kind of hurt. I want to thank you guys for watching my channel. Gonna try to get some more videos up for you. Kind of been a gap for a while where I haven't had any content. Please tell some new players or any other friends you have to start watching my channel. Give me some thumbs up, subscribe. That's how I know that I'm doing kind of a good job and keeps me going on making more videos. So it really comes down to you guys, and thank you for watching. So more videos coming up soon.